Every 10 years, they changed the rules. Fat was the enemy, then it wasn't. Coffee would finish you, then it would save you. Eggs were poison, then they called them the antidote. And in the same year, one expert said, cut the meat. Another said, eat more of it. They couldn't even agree with each other. While they were arguing, I just kept living. I never sat down with a pen and paper and followed a single expert all the way through. Not one. And here I am, 102 years old. I didn't get here because of health books I read. I didn't learn a thing in a classroom either. They had their degrees, their books. I have my years, and only one of us is still talking. Now, I could sit here and tell you, eat this and you'll make it past 100. You can grab a pen and paper, write it all down, and leave here feeling good. But no, I'm not going to do that to you. I'm just going to try to help you find that leak you haven't noticed yet. I'm Robert. I was a plumber for more than 40 years. I know what happens when you ignore a small leak. You don't notice it for months. Then one morning, the whole ceiling comes down on you. While people were busy writing books about how to live, I was out fixing other people's broken systems. I didn't have a personal doctor until I was 71. Never owned a scale. You could pay me all the money in the world and I still couldn't explain what a calorie is. And I'm not going to sit here pretending I have the answer that all those experts missed. I don't. But what I have is something simpler than that. I have 102 years of mornings, and a few things I noticed along the way. Not in a lab, not in a book. I learned them while living, right here, in this life. I grew up in Pennsylvania. We didn't have money for doctors, so nobody told us what to be afraid of. We ate what was on the table, bread, potatoes, whatever my mother had cooked that day. Nobody counted calories. You ate, you worked, you slept. No expert required. Somewhere in my mid-30s, a man handed me a pamphlet outside a grocery store. Said fat was going to close my arteries by the time I was 50. I was curious, so I read it on the bus, put it in my toolbox, and forgot about it. 12 years later, I found it again, under a wrench. By then, that expert had already changed his position twice. I'm talking about the 1960s. They've been changing positions every decade since, and every time they do, there's a new book to sell, a new television segment, a new thing you've been doing wrong your entire life. I stopped reading the pamphlets, and I kept working. Well, I worked side by side with my friend Frank on the same streets for nearly 20 years. He's the real reason I'm sitting here telling you this. I used to see him more than I saw my wife, Dorothy. Frank was really into all that expert stuff. He read everything, every article, every new study. When they said cut the fat and the red meat, Frank was done with both of them by that same week. He tracked his sodium, counted his calories, and knew his cholesterol number by heart. I don't remember it exactly now, but I think he used to say, 187. He said it with pride. He walked every single morning, rain or snow, for years. The most disciplined man I ever knew. He told me once, "Robert, the way you eat, you won't make it to 65. I was eating a ham sandwich at the time. He said it with genuine concern, like he was truly sorry about it. I didn't say anything. I just kept eating. Frank left us at 67. His heart gave no warning. Just like that, gone. I was 70 years old. standing at his service, the ham sandwich man still standing. And I remember thinking, not for the first time, but clearer this time, more certain, something doesn't add up. There's something in the pipe that doesn't go where the blueprint says it should. The experts studied life from the outside. I lived it from the inside. There is a real difference between those two things. You know, I've seen people who lived long lives. I've seen people who watched every bite and still went suddenly. I've watched a lot of people go and seen how they went. All of that couldn't have come down to the diet the experts recommended. After all of that, I started paying attention differently, not to what people ate, but to where the real difference was. The real problem wasn't diet. It wasn't extra weight. Every one of them had a leak. Frank was afraid his whole life, afraid of the wrong number on a piece of paper, afraid of the wrong food on a plate. He spent 22 years being so careful about how he lived that he never quite got around to living. I don't say that to diminish him. I say it because I watched it happen right in front of me in real time, and I didn't see it until he was gone. And then I looked at myself. I had my own leak too. Had it for years, that much was clear. The kind you walk past every morning and tell yourself you'll get to it. Then later becomes a year. A year becomes 10. Dorothy used to say, "Robert, we need to get your blood work checked. You're not young anymore. We need to keep an eye on things." I hadn't been to a proper doctor in 14 years before Dorothy finally made me go. I was 85. She didn't ask. She made the appointment, wrote the address on a piece of paper, left it on my chair. That was that. The doctor was young, maybe 40. One of those men who looked like he'd spent his whole life studying something and was very proud of it. Blood pressure, cholesterol, heart, the full picture. I sat there in that paper gown, feeling like a sick man while he looked at his clipboard. He went quiet for a moment. Then he looked up. "Mr. Robert," he said, "these numbers, how are you doing this?" I didn't understand the question at first. "Doing what?" I said. "These are not the numbers of an 85-year-old man," he said. I told him I didn't know what to say to that. He asked what I ate. I told him, though I may have stretched the truth a little. Yeah, I was still eating sausage and ham, and I didn't mention it because I didn't feel like hearing his warnings. He asked what supplements I took. "None," I said. Then he asked about my exercise routine. I told him I walk when I feel like it and stop when I don't. He was writing faster and faster, like he was trying to catch something before it got away. Then he leaned forward and asked me the question nobody had ever asked me in my whole life. Everyone always asked what I ate, how I slept. But he said, "What is it? What's the actual thing?" And I sat there in that flimsy paper gown, 85 years old, and I realized I didn't have an answer. But there was one more thing that came to me later, something I hadn't said to that doctor. I never fought my body, not once in 102 years. I never punished it for wanting something. I never followed a rule that felt like punishment. When every expert in the country said fat was the enemy, I looked at my own body and thought, this body is working just fine. Why would I declare war on something that isn't broken? The experts were trying to fix people whose health had already gone wrong. I was just trying not to break myself. Those are two completely different things. And I know some of you out there are fighting your own body even when you're perfectly healthy, trying to make it better, just like Frank did. I watched Frank count every calorie, measure every portion, walk his exact 30 minutes on January ice. And I always thought, that man is white-knuckling his way through his own life. Discipline that comes from fear is not discipline. It's an argument you can never win. The body hears that argument and it responds to it. Frank's weakness wasn't his cholesterol. It was 22 years of being afraid. I was never afraid, not of food, not of my own body, not of a number on a piece of paper. I fixed what was broken when it broke. I didn't spend my life tearing out pipes that were still working fine. Last month, my neighbor's grandson came to this house, a journalist, young, very serious, notebook, recorder, the whole thing. Sat right where you'd be sitting. He asked about my diet and my sleep. I told him. Then he asked what advice I'd give to people who wanted to live past 100. I said a little sharply, "Stop asking people like me for advice." He laughed, thought I was joking. I wasn't. Every decade, some new expert will tell you the last one was wrong, I said, and they'll be right. And then they'll be wrong too. That's the pattern. I've watched that pattern my whole life. Not 20 years, not 50, a full 102 years. Write that down. He did. Closed his notebook, gathered his things, and stood up to leave. At the door he turned and said, "One last thing. Do you worry about how much time you have left?" "Son," I said, "I've been fixing other people's broken pipes since I was 16 years old. I've never seen anybody worry about the pipes that weren't leaking yet. I eat real food. I take easy walks. And most importantly, I don't follow anybody's list. I don't fight my own body. I stop spending my energy on arguments that get rewritten every 10 years by people who will never have to live with the results. Now, the leak. You want to know what I mean by that? Maybe for you it's not food either. Maybe it's a visit you've been putting off for years. Maybe it's the reason you wake up every morning already exhausted before the day even starts. Maybe it's the thing you keep calling fine. You know what it is. You keep walking past it and not fixing it. I can't tell you what it is. That's not my job. But I'll tell you this. It's not on any expert's list. It never was. The pipe that's actually leaking is rarely the one they're pointing at. Find it. Fix it before the ceiling comes down.